Hey there, this is Patrick, and welcome back to the channel. Hope you're enjoying the videos. Today I'm going to talk about a tool that I bring with me everywhere I go. It's the one thing that you absolutely shouldn't be in your car without. Again, we're talking about, this is sort of the business of Uber, of being an Uber driver, and certain things that you need to know for business. As I mentioned in the last video, you got to really focus on measuring things and being effective. If you can't tell if you're being effective if you're not measuring. And the way I measure things is I write everything down. And so the most important tool that I have with me, two of them really, one is a pen, and I keep that right in my pocket. I usually wear a shirt with a pocket, or if not, I'll put it right in the console down here. And the second, very important, is a pad of paper. You can get 4 of these things for $1 at the dollar store, something like that, and they come in really handy. And so what am I writing down, and how does this work? Well, the first thing is I get a small pad of paper like this, not a big legal pad or a 8.5 by 11 thing. Just get a little thing that you can stick in your pocket or tuck into the console, that kind of thing, and have your pen. The very first thing I write on this piece of paper, and I'll put a example of it up, or I'll just have it up while I'm talking. Very first thing I put up is the date. What's today's date? The next thing I do is at the beginning of a ride is I will put in nice big numbers what my starting mileage is. And I will say, here's the starting mileage. I will put the time on there. I will also, if I have any expenses, usually I incur those at the beginning of my day. So if I go and fill up with gas, for example, or if I go buy a few bottles of water or something like that, those are expenses. Again, this is not me donating this stuff to Uber. These are expenses. I expect to get them paid back. And the way that you get them paid back is you've got to write them down. You save the receipts. So I save the receipts. When I have a receipt, I write Uber on the top of it, and I put it in my wallet. At the end of the day, when I go home, I take that stuff out of my wallet and I file them away, along with logging what I've got on my driver's log, for lack of a better term here. And what I do on this piece of paper is I log my time. And I also log what I'm doing with my time. So I'll say I started at 12:30, 12:28 or something like that, and I waited from 12:28 to 12:52. So when the Uber thing fires up and the alarm starts going off, I grab my pen, I write the time down. I'm not waiting anymore. The Uber thing's fired off. I hit accept ride, or tap the screen to accept the ride. I write that time down again. Let's say 12:52 to whatever it is. That's called my ride. I'll call it a ride or a drive or whatever it is. And let's say it takes 30 minutes and I get back and I drop the person off. As soon as I drop somebody off, the pad comes out again, right? And I write the time down, and I call that the end of my ride. Now, yeah, the Uber app will log the time of your ride for you. It'll say you picked up at this time and dropped off at that time, and they'll give you a little map that shows the route you took and that sort of thing. But what Uber's not doing is telling you what your waiting time was. So you may have started your day for Uber at 12:28, but not got your first ride until 1:30. Well, I am measuring my time. My time is worth something. Now, I don't put the actual amount my time is worth in this thing, but what I do is log how much time I'm spending. So if I get 3 rides in a day and I make around $100, let's say, but it took me 5 hours to make that $100, you see what I'm saying? My hourly rate is not going to be what it was for just those 3 rides. It's going to be that entire 5 hours worth of time netted me $100. Yeah, that's not exactly the thing that I was looking for. So I measure all that. And so at the end of the day, also in big numbers, is I look at my odometer and I write down the ending miles. Now this includes, by the way, the only 2 sets of miles I write down are the starting mileage and the ending mileage. This includes me driving to pick somebody up. I don't get paid for that. So if that person is 13 minutes away and I got to drive for 13 minutes to pick them up, I'm not getting paid for it. However, I log all those miles. Why do I do that? Because at the end of the year, or at the end of the quarter actually, because we're a 1099 employee, you can write off the mileage that you have on your car. You can say I logged 150 miles today, and that is something you can write off on your taxes, the usage of your car. This is a vehicle that I'm using for my business. I'm an independent contractor, thus I have a 1099 that I have to submit, and so I pay taxes quarterly. You write off your miles. I'm also writing off all the gas that I'm putting into the car. So all the expenses that I put into this thing, I'm writing them off. Those are business expenses. I'm not donating this to Uber. And so I expect to see that money back, number one, but I'm also writing it off on my taxes, number two. So that's the thing I wanted to cover with you today, is get yourself a pad and write certain things down. You will need this later, and especially if you need to flip back and figure out what happened the other day, that kind of thing. This is really handy. It's also really handy, one last tip, also really handy for knowing the patterns in certain days in your city. Knowing that Sunday's a slow day, or Monday, anytime before noon is slow, but it really picks up between noon and 2. You'll be able to tell because you've now got the data that says when you picked up rides. You'll have the stuff that Uber puts in their app that says where those rides were, right, if you don't remember. So that's one thing to help you figure out the patterns of how your city works with Uber. And we'll see you in some videos coming up where we'll talk about other tools and tricks and tips to help make Uber a viable business for you, or help you figure out if it's not a viable business. That's always an option, by the way. It might not work for you. So if it doesn't work for you, back it up with some data so that you know it doesn't work for you and make that decision. If it does work for you, also have the data to say, yes, it works for me, and this is what backs that argument up. Either way, be happy with what you're doing when you're driving for Uber, and make it as good as you can. If you work at it and you can turn it into a viable side business or something for you, more power to you. And that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave me a comment or send me an email or something like that. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video, want me to do more of them, that kind of thing. I'd love to hear from you. And have a great day, and happy Ubering.